my kingdom. Had to buy some harmony. Now I'm flexing with my jewels. You can tell I got a lot on me. Grab another hero, feeling like I hit the lottery. Farming, getting API, stacking profits to the sky. 1x, 2.
Welcome to the stream. This is the Intergrove Podcast. I'm Bloater Punch, the host. We got Baby Punch and Sandwich Punch with us today on this Saturday afternoon, cloudy, sunny morning, or afternoon. So welcome everybody.
Welcome, Intergrove.
Hey guys, thanks for joining us.
So some of you may not have gotten the memo. Market's kind of taken a dump. So one thing that we've been talking about internally here is, did we learn anything from this cycle? I wasn't really in crypto. I think Baby Punch and Sandwich Punch, you guys were in not like 12 months ago during that bear market in May, right? Wasn't there a really big turn in May?
Yeah, so I was like casually in like late 2017, passively
Okay.
in through 2018 and 2019, but like really in like the beginning of 2021 is when I started like actively trading and investing in a lot of projects.
Yeah.
And so what do you remember? Like, what was the sentiment? Was it like the sky was falling in May? Because I remember it was a pretty big turn, right?
It was bad. Yeah, last May was bad
Bearish.
because I just remember like some of the projects that we were really bullish on. It was like it dips and we're like buy the dip, and then it dips again. You know, this was like the time when Elon tweeted and was like, Tesla's not accepting Bitcoin, and it just went downhill from there for like, what was it, 2 months, 2.5 months? It was just brutal. And it got to the point where like we had expended all of our dry powder because we're like, hey, everyone says buy the dip, and yeah, it
Continued to
but
buy
we did.
it.
We did buy the dip, and it recovered, and things turned out well. But then we, made mistakes after that.
What's up, Breeze man? Good to have you on the stream as well. So lessons learned. You guys have more insight because you've been in it longer. One of my feelings, as this has happened, and I've lost a ton of money myself, which is fine, right? That's part of the process. That's part of the risks of playing the game. But one of my takeaways is I think you have to go into projects eyes wide open. So I see entering a project two ways. Either you read the white paper and you do a technical analysis on the project and you decide if the project has good mechanics, a sustainable economy. That's one way you could do it. And the reality is, I feel like we've participated in very few projects who actually pass that smell test. And the way I've been doing it, I don't know about you guys, but I'm just doing the psychology game. Like, does it have hype? Can I make money on this? I don't care if it's terrible tokenomics. DFK's tokenomics are pretty bad from the unlock perspective, right? Like, that's not bullish. There's going to be huge price pressure with their unlock. And Mars Colony is another prominent one where it's like, so this is a infinite printing press for more, colony. Like, where's this going to go? So for me, it's like, do you trade technical or do you trade psychology? And I've been doing psychology. I'm trying to read the room. And I think right now, most projects, not all, most projects are musical chairs. Are you going to make the pump, or are you going to be someone's exit liquidity? And I don't think DFK falls into that. I think DFK is a legit project who is going to continue to produce. But most projects feel like musical chairs. And if you have to, I think you have to own that and be like, yeah, this is a super high risk game I'm playing. I could be the exit liquidity, or I could make a ton of money.
Yeah, man, it's frustrating that like that no matter how like technical you get in the white paper, you look and you see like, are there VC investors? What's the unlocked schedule? Like, you're on top of everything. You're following all of that. You can still just, because it can sometimes be a game of musical chairs or hot potato, still just get dumped on. So I think what you say is very valid. Like, there is a huge psychology game, and especially in the short-term trading game.
So like Mars Colony, for example, does that, like, did you read anything where like this project has really good ideas?
Honestly,
I remember our first instinct was,
this is a hyperinflationary token. I don't know how it's sustainable. And then we all went on to mint like 45 plots.
I minted 55 plots for no reason other than I was like, hey, I'm bored, got some money in my stable. Why not? And it turned out to be my best NFT play. Most of my NFT plays suck. So, yeah. Yeah. So,
It's hard to know like what are the good plays because unless you can really dig into the team and past projects and really understand white papers and tokenomics, and even then it's still a gamble because
okay, wait. I do want to ask you something, Baby Punch. And again, maybe Sandwich Punch, maybe you recuse yourself from this conversation. Okay. Don't want
Okay,
to
let's
get
hear it.
Don't want you
Let's
to get
hear
your
it.
hands dirty. Charlie Sprocket said, got to talk about Atlas leaving DFK. Regardless of him starting his own game, there's def stuff going on behind the scenes. So for context, Sandwich Punch is a knight. He may or may not have insight. I doubt he does, right? I think,
I don't have context on this one.
yeah.
So,
So Baby Punch, just your first reaction. How bearish is the lead dev
Yeah.
artist leaving?
it's not a good sign when you have like core developers and team members leaving the project. I don't. That being said, I don't know how much of it was related to him because he was a developer in games before. So I don't know how much to add on the weight as far as I want to just go start my own game. That's my calling card. That's what I'm passionate about, as opposed to him being, I guess, bearish on DFK or something internally. So I don't really know. I'm hoping it was just him wanting to follow his dream and passion and actually start a Web3 crypto project, which, good on him because he's done it. He's created games in Steam. He's been successful. Hopefully that was the reason for his departure and
And
not
not
so
Jewel at
much.
60 cents.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll just say that had nothing to do with it.
Okay. So let's continue this lessons learned.
I
Sandwich
mean,
Punch.
just real quick on that note. I mean, it's like it's no news. Like they haven't. It was pretty clear from AMAs. Like they weren't selling Treasury Jewel into US dollars. So when Jewel goes up to $22 and you're in a market where people are in super high demand, whether it's artists or developers, and then Jewel goes back down to 60 cents, like people's salaries are going to get cut. And I don't think that's necessarily, it's bad in the sense that like, yeah, some people might leave and maybe that's the impetus for Atlas leaving. Maybe it's more so he had other ideas and projects that made more sense for him, but it's also good to see like, hey, we have to make some hard decisions, and some of those hard decisions are like people are going to get paid less. I mean, people have been whining that that devs have been being paid too much anyway. So, I mean, I think this is the natural consequence of that, and
They
like,
should have
I
set
guess time will tell.
expectations more realistic from the get-go and not
Yeah.
paid people these exorbitant amounts of Jewel. It should have been very realistic and everyone could have been very happy with their compensation like throughout the entirety of the project.
Yeah, I will say, maybe we could talk about this. And again, you guys lived through this, May dip last year, but to me, crypto is very immature in the way, and again, it just feels like when Jewel was at 22, okay, the mania was peak, like absurd. Everyone was like euphoric. And when Jewel dips, do you guys remember it was like 2 or 3 streams ago? It was that like really dark day. It was when Frisky was like, "Do you want me to vote? Do you want to vote me off the island?" And people were like weeping in our chat. DFK's dead. Kill me. I'm gonna kill myself. This is the end of the world. Sky's falling. And so I just feel like, things go up, things go down. Like that's the reality of any market. What I will say is some of these projects are not recovering, like full stop, right? This isn't like, oh, in 6 months, all the, like a lot of these I've invested in, that's worthless at this point. But I do think there will be projects that oscillate, that do return. There's macro. So you just got to chill a little bit. Like, markets go up and down. And when COVID hit, my 401k was literally 40% of what it was before COVID. So it was like, oh, it'll never recover. And then if you invested in the dip, you would have like 2x'd in like 3 months. So I just feel like people are very knee jerk, like, and it's amplified in crypto. People get even more emotional and more knee jerk.
Yeah, I agree. So I guess back to like lessons learned, and I know some of the community have some questions, and I've been pinning them, so we can go back and hit those. But my biggest thing is not having more aggressively taken profits, and I mean like aggressive. Like it shouldn't just be like, oh, like Jewel went from like $8 to $22. I took like 10% off the table. It's like if Jewel goes from $8 to $22, like everyone should have like we should have taken like 80% of our
Yeah.
portfolio off the market, get it into other stuff, put it into stables, put it into Ethereum, put it into Bitcoin. I have been super bearish on Ethereum and Bitcoin, and I didn't hold like any. I think we've talked about this because we're all degens and we all want like 10, 100x gains, and you're never going to see that with Ethereum and Bitcoin. But I highly, highly regret not having held some up to this point. So you needed like, for me, it's like you got to set like principles and just be like, okay, if it goes up this percent, I'm taking this much off the table. Like a lot of people talked about rebalancing their portfolios in the context of Luna. So, wow, roll those profits into UST.
Yeah.
Jafer, okay,
we kick
we're gonna
Jafer out of the chat.
we're gonna
here.
get to that one too.
Ban him.
Like if anybody watched Crypto Banter, Crypto Man Ran would be like, he put at the beginning of his Luna investment, it was a small percentage of his portfolio, but Luna price mooned so much that it ended up being like, if I recall correctly, like 70+% of his portfolio. Like that should never happen. As soon as that starts to happen, you ladder it out, you put it into other, and you diversify.
So there's a comment that says, but if everyone took this level of profits, 80%, the price would just dip sooner than it did. Here's the reality of the fact. If you do not take your profits, everyone else will. So, I mean, regardless of whether you want to take profits or not, you just better believe that if that thing goes 200-300% return, like if you don't take your profits, everyone else is taking their profits and you're just going to write it back down. So you can't think that way. You've just got to know that if it goes 200-300%, you just take your profits. Either that, or here's one strategy in my mind that I kind of do is I watch it very, very closely. If it's sitting to at least a 200 or a 2x, I'm watching it very, very closely, and I have to be okay not timing the top if I'm going to try and ride it all the way up, because sometimes they'll go not just 2, they'll hit 3, 4, 5x, and if you want to risk riding that up, you can either DCA profits out, or you just have to be okay with it hitting the top and then being able to take your profits as it's coming down just a little. So watch it. You've got to be okay with it coming down 10% and then deciding that's your exit point if you're not going to try to just time the top. So
And I will just add one thing on top of that. This was probably like my number 2 biggest mistake I made, and that's like cutting your like. So Baby Punch said it's okay to like if you want to ride it up, if you want exposure to all that upside, that's fine, but you need to be ready to pull the plug quickly on its way down. Yep. And my problem was Jewel's at $22. I keep using Jewel because it was the biggest portion of my portfolio. Another mistake. Don't get me wrong, I am super bullish on Jewel, but like no project should be 75% of your portfolio.
Yeah,
which it was. So, but like Jewel goes just from $22 to $13, and I'm like, no way I'm selling at this point. I had a buddy who cashed everything out, took his gardens out, everything gone. He's like, he's like, I'm just not dealing with that. I'll buy back in later. And he's like, and I have to buy back in, like say if it's on its way back up and I have to buy back in at 15 or 17, like fine, it is what it is. I'll have a little less Jewel stack, but it's better than if Jewel goes down to $5. And I was like, yeah, I just don't see that happening. And at this point, I'm just going to ride it out. I'm going to keep farming, and I would be exponentially in a better situation if I had sold at 13 and then again at 9 when I asked myself, and then again at 6 and 7. And it's just like I saw a really interesting chart. The amount of gains you have to make to recoup the same, like a percentage of a loss. Like, so, okay, so let's say Jewel goes, or any token goes from $8 to $4, that's a 50% loss. But then if you're holding at $4 to get back to $8, you have to go up 200% from there. So wealth preservation is more important for me than wealth like accumulation, because the damage that can be caused by like losing all of your hard-earned gains by like a 10, 20, 30% dip is so much harder to make that same dollar value up, because you have to go, if it's a 30% dip, you've got to go up like 60% to from that lower price to recover all of that.
Here's an interesting lesson learned. If it smells like poop, it's probably poop. So I was telling my dad about these stable coins that you can stake and get a guaranteed rate, like 20% anchor protocol. And he was like, nah, that's a scam. It has to be a scam. He's like a traditional finance guy. He's like, it's a scam. It has to be a scam. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like, it's a stable coin. It's tied to the US dollar. And he was like, well, where's the return coming from? How are they generating that return? It's got to come from somewhere. The return represents risk. I was like, no, Dad, you don't understand. And then it turns out this whole assumption we had about stable coins being pegged to US dollar is kind of a fallacy, right? It turns out some of them aren't pegged, or they can depeg, which no one really believed could happen. So again, someone says, oh, it's guaranteed 20%. There's no risk. It's a stable coin. And it turns out you had huge risk and it wasn't a stable coin and you got rugged. So for me, it's like, you got to be skeptical. And again, we're in this weird Wild West unregulated crypto world and anything goes. And so it's just like, you've got to go in and understand that nothing is riskless, and even stable coins aren't that stable sometimes. And so you've got to, read the room. And like I said, either do a technical analysis, do a psychology analysis, but go in eyes wide open. Like, this is super high risk stuff.
Yeah. So, all right. So one of my biggest lessons learned is to never marry a project. And essentially, you can do your research, you can dive into the team, you can read the white paper, you can understand as much as you want about the project. But the reality is, just like DeFi King, as much as I believe in the core team and their whole process and they're developing really well, a lot of factors are just completely out of their hands. So there's
You didn't
economic
marry the
factors.
project, though. You and Sandwich Punch were in a deep, romantic, raunchy relationship with DFK, and it was super steamy.
It was a love affair with DFK.
It was super steamy, and guys, let me tell you, for those of you who are on the stream right now, I would say things like, hey, and I would always play this again on the way up, on the way down. I was like, oh, I'm skeptical. And if I said one thing bad about their lover, get out of the way. The banhammer was coming down. People were raging at me.
Here's the thing, though. Like, it's not that you can't be in love with a project. You just have to be able to stick to your principles of profit taking and taking money off the table, because regardless of how well the project is and how good the core team is, economic factors will play into the matter. You'll have market manipulation. There are big whales out there, BlackRock. They will move the market. Elon Musk, as soon as he tweets about
Jewel feels like it had price
tweets
manipulation.
about
When it hit 22,
Doge.
I felt like there was mad price manipulation going on.
Yeah, there was, absolutely. So you can be in love with a project, just don't marry that thing. Don't take it to the grave. Don't ride it to the grave. So you can love a project. Like, I still am really bullish on DFK. They're developing, but the thing is I shouldn't have been so committed to it that I was willing to ride it all the way down to 60 cents in hopes that we ride it all the way back up. Like, I should have been diligent in my profit taking and
What's your
take those
favorite saying,
profits.
Baby Punch?
The Warren Buffett one.
No, the food stamp one.
Oh, Ferraris are food stamps.
Yeah.
Yikes.
I mean, I've said that. You gotta. It's okay to have high conviction. It's okay to have high conviction plays. It's okay to be, married in a sense to a project, but you have to be able to separate the investment portion of your investment. Like you can be emotionally invested, but you still have to like be able to step back, take things from a logical perspective, and be like, if a token goes from $5 to $22, you should be 95% like exited and wait for the rebuy. Like,
Yeah.
and it's okay to say like everybody should be doing that. It's okay to say that because the reality is everybody's not going to be doing that. The majority of people are, the sheep out there that see, but look at like the market cap of Axie Infinity and Jewel is only at $22. If Jewel were to be the same market cap of Axie Infinity, it would have to go to $80 and everyone's still holding. It's like, so there will always be the majority of retail investors that think like that. So
By the way, it could happen.
it could.
And so you have to think, what am I comfortable with? And, have I achieved my goals? What level of risk? And like you said, ladder aggressively. If you're in the black that much, you need to ladder aggressively. Jay Hudson says, if you guys don't mind sharing, what is your average buy price of Jewel? Do you guys want to talk about that?
Dude, I don't even know.
Yeah,
I
I
purchased
have
it
no
so
clue.
many different times. I've sold it so many different times. I'm still holding a big bag. I've got.
Well, okay,
I mean,
let me
I have a
maybe
guarded
say this.
position that was
When
like
did you get in? When did you make your biggest Jewel purchase, and what price was that at?
My lowest,
biggest.
I think, was 17 cents.
Oh,
Yeah, I think I
Oh,
got.
hold on.
Listen,
My next
yeah,
highest was $22. So
my
17
cheapest
cents.
purchase was probably like 13 cents. I spent. I I spent a like gross amount of money at $22 because we were just talking about this last night, Bloated Punch. You were like, why would you have done that? And I had a bunch of money I was farming over on Elrond on the Maillard decks, and it was like I could farm that or I could farm Jewel. And at the time, and I know you keep calling me out for this, I said, if it ain't broke, don't fix, or don't fix it. So I was like, I'm making great money in Jewel. Why not just take that money and farm it in Jewel?
You
And
were making fat stacks.
I
in
spent a
farms.
large amount of money. Like it pains me to think about it. $22 Jewel, and it was just like downhill from there. I even tweeted about it. You can go like look at my Twitter. It was like it must have been in January at some point. I was like, high conviction plays, just made a giant purchase, and it's like it's embarrassing thinking about it now. So,
So my purchase history was I got in way later. I was watching Jewel, super skeptical, was new to crypto. These guys were in, they were in deep, and they were making a lot of money. So I bought in at $5. Then it immediately corrected to $3.50, super bullish. And then I held, and I really didn't make another major purchase. And then at $20, my brother came to me and was like, we're at peak mania, we should sell. So I sold, then tried to get back in at like $12, sold at like $8, then got back at $6, then got back in at $3. So now we're at 60 cents. So feeling pretty good.
The thing that's really frustrating for me too, and I think this is the one that hurts the most, and this goes to diversity, not just diversity in your portfolio of like all your projects, but diversifying your stable coins. So Baby Punch, I know, was in the same situation as I is like, we took profits. We after the $22 like crash of 22 and then it went back up with Crystal Bell, we were taking profits and like aggressively so. And then the stupid thing we did was we were like, UST baby, 20%, it's a stable coin. And I was telling my wife, I was like, I'm taking profits. Like this is how much like profits and stable coins we've taken. And she's like, that's awesome. It's like, is it in our bank account? I was like, no, but it's a stable coin and we're
It's like
earning
a bank account.
20%. We're earning 20% on it. Like, I was like, this is amazing. We're earning 20% on this. And she's like seriously the most like understanding person in the world. I had to like explain to her that like, hey, this amount of money that could have paid for law school like four years, like gone to law school 4 times with this amount of money, like it's now worth 30 cents on the dollar. And that was it was just like, it's just painful. It sucks,
Yeah.
That's why so if I had put money in partially UST, partially USDC, Binance USD, even US Tether, guys, like split it up, spread it out. There's risks. Like if one protocol goes down, also there's risks of having all of your money on one chain. It's like if a chain goes down and you can't bridge it out. I also experienced that with the Terra crash. It's like I had money, I had UST over on Terra, and if I could have had it over on Harmony or on any other chain, I could have at least sold some of it, and it was just like completely shot. And so diversify your holdings. That includes putting some of it, like send it to a fiat exchange, I know, or a centralized exchange, and putting it into US dollars. I know there's I personally have a huge allergic reaction to that because I'm like, no, it's KYC, like I'm not ready to deal with the IRS yet. I don't want them to have any visibility in that. And now I'm like sitting on like shambles of a portfolio. So
I would
don't make
say
the
on the
same mistake.
diversification comment you made, to me, so when things are going really well, I was still investing in real estate. And I remember you were asking, and by the way, I've lost tons of money in crypto. But one idea I had was, hey, I'm doing well in crypto. I want to be in other markets. And so I have continued to buy real estate. And now it feels better, to your point, because like you said, you've got to diversify. And whether that means diversifying chains, whether that means diversifying coins, and whether that means actually diversifying assets, right? It shouldn't all be in crypto. There could be macro effects like we've seen that affect all of crypto. So I think diversifying multiple assets, it doesn't have to be real estate, but not just being 100% indexed in crypto is also important.
It has to be real estate.
Yeah,
That's
I know.
definitely
Here's the thing.
play.
I remember you purchasing a property, and I remember talking to Baby Punch's brother who was purchasing a property, and I was like, how much capital are you like spending on that down payment? And we talked about the numbers, and I was like, I would 100 out of 100 times rather take that same money and put it into crypto right now. And that's the degen mindset that has got me where I'm at right now. And I'm like, I'm down. Yeah. I mean, I say down. I'm down from this like proverbial like hypothetical had I sold at the high number. I'm still up overall on my crypto journey, but I have lost like a lot of unrealized value.
Yeah, again, we need to be degen. I think we need to change the way when we say degen. Degen right now means riding it to the top and riding it all the way back down. And we need
Yeah.
to be degen plus, which is ride it up and ladder as we go. That's the
Yeah.
real degen play.
Or just cut your losers quickly. Like, don't be afraid if you feel like this is not a safe environment, if the mentality is really low, just cut your losers quickly.
So tough though. Listen, what about this? So Sandwich Punch, you have this massive jewel portfolio. You buy in big at 22. So it goes to 10 in a month. So at that time, you're thinking, if I sell right now and it goes to 20, I'm going to hang myself. Like unacceptable. And
Yeah.
so it's like, I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to do the cut because in that moment, you didn't have a crystal ball and you were thinking, Jewel's going to recover. Like, of course it's going to recover. This is a dip. If I sell now, I'm an idiot. And then it turns out you would have been super smart. But I don't know. Is it even possible? I don't know if I have the will.
I think the way that most traders approach that, like experienced traders, is they just get okay with that you limit your downside. That's like if you had like go back to like a gambit system or like your priorities. First priority, limit your downside. Focus on like let the upside deal with itself later. And so an experienced trader would be like, Jewel goes from 22 to 10, and it's like I will be so upset if this goes back up to 20 overnight. But an experienced trader would be like, that's okay. I'm limiting my downside. If it goes from 10 up to 12 and I see it trending upwards, I'll buy back in at that point. I'll have a smaller bag than I had before, but I limited the downside of it going from 10 to 5. And you just get okay with that. Like that's just a cost of principal.
Well, especially if your average cost is $1 or $2, right? And you're like, listen, I'm still up big, right?
Yeah.
If you're at a loss, that one's harder. If your average cost was 15 and it was at 10, are you like, yeah, I'm all out and I'll buy back in later? Because that's a different conversation.
It's hard. It's so hard. It's
That's right. And so our new project, guys, we're really excited to announce this. We're launching a project where you get a conservatorship. So you completely give up control of your crypto. So that way it's no longer painful. We make the decisions for you. Let's go.
Honestly, Warren Buffett, I believe he said this. He said it really, really well. He said, someone asked him in an interview, like, how did you make all your money? And his one statement was, I sold too early. And you have to be okay with that concept because you will never time the top. You just have to get comfortable with the point where you exit a project or where you're taking profits, and just realize that everything that you could have made was not even feasible. You didn't have access to that. Like, you could not have made that. You have to be 100% like just fine with a project mooning without you when you choose to take your profits or exit a profit or exit a project. You just have to be okay with selling too early, because that is a lot easier of a pill to swallow than riding it all the way back down to zero.
There's also some weird sell signals. We've joked about this. We have a friend. So we have a friend who said, I think Sandwich Punch and I didn't get land, but Sandwich Punch and Baby Punch were able to get their hands on some land. Their filthy little hands. And at the peak, one of our friends said, someone offered, I don't remember what the offer was, but someone was like, hey, I'll buy your land. And this is before there was a marketplace for land. And they're like, hey, I'll pay you X. And one of our friends said, don't take less than $1 million. Okay. So that, to me, we were talking about this like last night. That idea is a sell signal. When we're that infatuated and peak mania, where we think some random NFT that hasn't been explained and we have no idea what it does is worth $1 million, that's a sell signal. Another sell signal is a project going from 13 cents to $22. That's a sell signal, right? Like, it can't sustain indefinitely. Think about this for a second. Mars Colony. We all went deep on Mars Colony, made a lot of money. Mars Colony peaked at $34. So someone bought in at $34. It's trading at like 6 cents right now. So you got, it's like it can't all be up, right? It can't, number can't always go up, right?
Yeah, I mean, another example of that, just the land. It's like I went to a friend's wedding in December, and I was talking to that friend about DeFi Kingdoms, these NFTs, and he's like, show me what it is. And I showed him one of my Gen Zeros, and he's like, how much is that worth? I was like, honestly, this is worth like $50,000 right now, this Gen Zero hero. Like, that should have been a sell signal for me, right?
Yeah.
And when I say like, please don't misunderstand, guys. I am super bullish on the project, but like, that doesn't mean you have being bullish and having conviction in a project doesn't force you and demand that you have to hold something that you spent 1,500 Joule on when Joule was $1.50. So like what, 2,300 bucks. You're not forced to hold that all the way up to 50,000 and then watch it go all the way back down. Like, that's just like selling that at the top and then buying back in later is not like paper hands. It's not, oh, you don't believe in the project. That's just being like smart with your money. And I did not do that. I was very stupid.
Charlie Sprocket's comment, I think, is spot on. I think every time anyone talked about, well, what's the upside? How far could this go? Everyone always said, well, Axie. I mean, you've already said it on this stream, but I remember talking about that constantly. Everyone was always like, Axie. And DFK is even better. It's moving faster. It's growing faster. So I think for sure, Charlie's spot on that Axie really did blind a lot of people. But to your Gen Zero comment, my question was, like, do you guys remember what the Gen Zero floor peak was? I felt like it was like 80K. Is that right?
Yeah,
or is that too high?
I'm pretty sure it like hit up to like 80K.
Okay, so here's my question. What's the ROI when it hit 80K? So if you paid 80K, what would be your ROI? And number two, how much more upside could it have at that point? Like, how much higher could that go? And that's where it's like, again, I think a smart trader has to be like, I mean, even if it doubles, is how realistic of an outcome is that based on just like the facts we have? But again, the fact that we know nothing about land, there's heroes still have essentially no utility. These are hard assets to hold and buy. So
I want to flop to the other side just for this next one. So one thing that I feel that we have done really well is it can be really profitable to participate in project launches and NFT mints. So I mean, DeFi Kingdoms.
Wait, have we done things well? I feel like
we've done honestly, we have done a lot of things well. Like, I feel like we have grown our portfolio substantially. If you're paying attention and you've got some social media influencers or researchers that you're following on a daily basis. You're listening to projects. You've got your ground to the ear. Your wow, your ear to the ground, and you're listening to these projects. Like, we heard DeFi Kingdoms from Reddit, and we heard Mars Colony through, I think, just the Discord. So like, Discord is a great way to find these new projects. You can participate in their IDOs. You can mint their initial NFTs. And so we have done a lot of things right. And I think those can be really profitable. You've just got to know when to take profits. But I think we've made a lot of money when it comes to getting in early. Obviously, earlier the better. And it doesn't get any earlier than an IDO or a mint, NFT mint.
So that blade cuts both ways. Checking in with $7,500 on Gophers and checking in with $9,000 on Harmony Universe, both of which are functionally worthless at this point. So it's tough. And
Yeah.
again, I think the other thing you have to do with trading in crypto, I think, is you have to be comfortable taking big losses, knowing that, hey, you're gonna have tons of upside sometimes, and you're gonna have a lot of downside sometimes, and you got to be cool with that. So
It's the cost
you
of
know,
playing.
that's
You gotta be
exactly
willing
that's the
to-
cost of
The
entry
cost
here.
to play.
I'm gonna show this comment real quick from Sergeant Filthy McNasty's. What is the move when the market is down? DCA. I think that's always a good call. This ties into one of my big lessons learned from the last year when I said that we ran out of all of our dry powder. Is yes, I think DCA is always a good call, but you always have to save dry powder. Like, just always assume there's room for another 50-60% dip, and you do not, like, you, even if it's like a
You never
couple
go
$100
all
bucks,
in.
even if it's a couple $100, like a couple $100 when it goes another 50-60% down is huge. So like, DCA, yes, a huge proponent of DCAing. I've been DCAing into a lot of stuff this last month, but I will never ever spend the rest of my stables. I like, it's just kind of like an insurance policy to always have a little for, like, when ETH goes to $100, like, I want to be able to go ham when that happens. I don't think that'll ever happen, but it was an example, right? So always have dry powder. No matter how bad the dip is, it can get worse, and you want to be ready for that.
So I have a friend who lost hundreds of thousands of dollars on Bitcoin, trading Bitcoin in a really stupid way. I've talked to you guys about it. And I said, hey, when would you sell? Because he thinks Bitcoin's like going to the moon. I was like, when would you sell? Let's say Bitcoin was 100K by end of year. And he was like, 100K? No way. And I said, okay, what if Bitcoin hit 500K? And he was like, nah, not interested. And I was like, so what's your exit price? He's like, $1 million. Bitcoin has to hit $1 million. I'm like, bro, you are an idiot. Like, you're gonna hold it. I mean, maybe you're brilliant, but you're probably an idiot. So I mean, we've said it a million times, but you got a lot of profits. You got a lot of profits. You have to take gains, and you can't be that degen who's willing to be the exit liquidity for everyone else, because, like Baby Punch said, everyone else is taking gains. Like, you're that one dude who's like, all the way jewel to 50. And it's like, yeah, other people are like, cool, thanks, I'm out. So hard lessons.
A lot of hard lessons. Hopefully we've learned them, though. Hopefully we don't
know.
go back
I
and
feel like
repeat
we're
them.
saying we've learned them because it's really painful, but we're gonna do the exact same
I
thing
could
again.
very
No,
easily
no,
see
no.
myself repeating a lot of these same mistakes. But you've
I-
got to
I'm
have.
sure we will make them to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Never this bad, though,
I
right?
will never make mistakes like I did this specific cycle. Like,
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you guys know, I'm not as technically involved because I didn't hold UST. Is there a way we could have foreseen the UST problem? Or is that like, nah, like, that was considered the gold standard. There was no way to anticipate that.
I don't think there's a way
I
to
think
see
I mean, that kind of a crash, but algorithmic stablecoins by their nature have risks. DAI, as I understand it, is a stablecoin, but it's also over collateralized. UST was not, like, it was like what? Like a percent collateralized? Like, that is
What does algorithmic mean in that context? Do you know?
it's just that the price of it will change based off of an algorithm. And in UST, it was, you burn UST, or UST into Luna and Luna into UST, and like the arbitrage between the two keep the dollar peg. That's how, I mean, like super layman's terms. It's a lot more complicated than that. But I mean, I talked about this with Baby Punch. We were in ETH Denver. We met up with Drake, and we were talking about like what we're doing. We were just like, profit, take the profits, throw it at UST 20%, 20%, 20%. And he's like, that's cool and all, but like, just make sure you understand the risk of algorithmic stablecoins. And I was like, yeah. Like, and I didn't go back and like, I didn't go home and like research it. I knew that, Tether has had issues with its whole like reserves and whether it actually has enough to like fully back it. And I didn't look into it. And if I had at least known more, I probably could have at least been like, this is risky to have this all like 100% in UST.
It's
I
hard though
always would have had
because
some in there.
I mean, Luna was what, number 5 or number 7? It was top 10 crypto. So I mean, it had conviction. It wasn't just us that were believing in it. Like the entire crypto market was believing in the project and thought it was the winner of the stable coins. So it's hard to know when factors like this could happen. And that goes back into the play of economic factors will absolutely play a part in this. And if you're completely in one project, you could get wrecked. That's why you've got to diversify. Don't marry a project, even if things are going well and looks like it's got a ton of runway and development, and the sun is shining. Like, take your profits, because economic factors will play a part, and something will happen. The market will crash. That one will get wrecked, and so manipulation is going to happen. So diversify and just take profits, regardless of how convicted you are of a project.
So one thing I'll say is I'm still bullish on crypto. I'm concerned, but I'm still like, I think crypto will recover. I think we're going to see huge upside potentially. When that happens, I don't know, but I do believe crypto will come back up. Some projects are going to be left behind, but I think Bitcoin will recover for sure. One thing I think we need to be a little careful about is that like maxi attitude, like crypto's the best, fiat sucks, and there's downside in crypto too. So for example, this is true story, just happened to me. I had a friend DM me this morning and he said, someone hacked my account, I lost 700K. So in fiat, that is literally an impossibility, right? That just can't happen. There's too many checks and balances. You can't really get money out of a bank account that quickly. They need approval to transfer those kinds of balances. Like, there's a lot of checks and balances to make sure you can't really do that. You can't really scam people like that. Of course, scams happen, but they have to be a lot more sophisticated. So there's downside in crypto too, and crypto has to answer some of these harder questions in order to continue to be successful. So if you're involved in crypto because you believe from a technical perspective that crypto is the future, I think we still need to answer some questions like, how useful is crypto? Like, is the centralized market doing some of these things already and doing it better? And, what do we mean by decentralized? Does anyone care? Is that, and I'm not that much of an expert, but I do believe sometimes we get our blinders on like, oh, crypto's the best and, fiat sucks. And I think there's pros and cons, and getting scammed out of all your money is definitely a big possibility in crypto and not so much in fiat.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I had a couple more, just like, I'll just quickly rattle these ones off. So one thing that, and I heard this on another podcast, is if you like are questioning at night, if you're asking yourself like, am I overexposed to a project, and you keep asking yourself that question, you are overexposed to that project. Another one is find ways to get involved with projects in a meaningful way, because it can open up opportunities. I started like my whole like journey into like writing content for DeFi Kingdom started because I remember back when SafeMoon in March 2021, this guy would attend the AMAs, he'd write up a summary, and then he also, like, somebody else did a whale watch report. And so like I kind of was like, why don't I do this for DeFi Kingdoms? And then it turned into, making content, and turned into like getting in touch with people on the team, other people in the community, and it has opened up a lot of doors for me. And opening up types of doors like that can open up doors to maybe contribute to projects and be paid for some of those things. And so I think that's a huge opportunity for people, especially people who are like, hey, I've got time, but I don't know what to do. Like, how can I make more money? How can I get more dry powder to invest in projects? That's one thing you can do. And then I know that we just rattled on about diversify, but there's also a point at which you can over diversify. And I recently just culled a lot of my holdings and tried to consolidate because it was just too much. It was like I had 8 browser extension wallets. I had NFT play to earn projects in all of them, and it's just too much. And at a certain point, it's like, is it really? They're all super degen plays. Like I just my time was more valuable to focus diversification in other aspects rather than 20 different play to earns. Like, oh, why don't I just keep DeFi Kingdoms and maybe another as my play to earn, but then just do some single staking with some validators with some other ones and hold those for long-term capital gains. Anyways, those are kind of my big ones.
Dude, this is a good episode though. This is good. It's
Yeah.
cathartic. We all need this because we did need to learn these lessons, right? We've paid a high price to attend
It's
the
our
school of
tuition.
hard knocks, right?
Yeah.
Any thought, General, I saw this a couple times from a couple people. I was not bullish on the roadmap announcement on DFK, but I know they had a recent dev update that was more bullish. So just general thoughts on where DFK is at right now.
The recent announcement was really good with DFK Duel and Pets. So, I mean, they're doing everything that they can do. They can't do a dang thing about the price of Jewel. All they can do is continue to develop. And so, if there's a shot of DFK coming back up and getting to a decent level, and user base is increasing, they've just got to develop. I mean, from a project standpoint, that should be the only target. That's the only goal. You can't be price driven focused. It's just got to be develop the game, make it fun, listen to the community, and pivot to where we need to go to in order to capture the most player base and keep things fun. So they can't focus on the price. I feel like that's what they're doing right now, is they're just heads down developing. Maybe it should have came a little bit sooner, but I mean, right now they're doing what they're supposed to. So could the future of DFK still be really bright? I think so. As long as they're doing what they're supposed to, then it's out of their hands essentially. So if the sentiment in the crypto market it comes back, people will be really bullish on DFK again. So
Savage Punch, how nervous are you? Let's get a little on the Jewel unlock. How nervous are you on the economic impacts of the Jewel unlock? As we inch closer to it, what's the current speculated date for unlock right now?
I think it's early September.
Okay. So scared?
Honestly, all depends on what the market does. I mean, obviously, you just take it from a logical perspective. All things equal, everything is exactly as it is today, and you increase the circulating supply daily by the unlock amount, price will go down like that. That is the only logical response.
Sure.
But the thing that doesn't account for is what is released between now and September. What happens with the market between now and September? And those are things I mean I can't really plan for, but there will be some negative sell pressure. Yeah.
Do we have a super rough estimate of the quantity of Jewel unlocked daily?
I was working on some numbers. I don't have it off the top of my head. So numerically, it's higher than the past 26-week average, obviously. But once we get I think 10, 13 weeks into it, as a percentage of the then current circulating supply, it isn't much different than what we've seen over the past 26 weeks. But keep in mind, that's a huge saying. What is being emitted as a then existing percentage of circulating supply is much different than saying on a numerical basis how much is
true. That's fair.
So percentages versus absolute numbers, we're talking about almost apples to oranges. And so a lot of it will depend on like demand, player demand, and new content and market conditions. Somebody asked a question. I think this is a really good one. He says, "How do you guys balance following all these projects and your personal life? That is my daily challenge."
Easy. You don't. No, just kidding.
We've talked about this before. We have been through this, and you
Going
have
through
to.
this.
Yeah, we're like always going through this. We've come to the conclusion, like at least I have, that I cannot put the attention that I have on DFK into other projects if I want to keep a good balance in family and personal life. And for me personally, like that is by far my biggest priority, is having a good family personal balance. Like I go to the gym, I go golfing, we'll go out boating, I have my job, we'll go on hikes. And so I have friends, I've got family, and those are what's most important to me. And if I can make money and get to a financial point where I can do more of those things, then like that is the goal. But I am kind of a hypocrite in this, but I shouldn't ever devote more time into making money than I should into doing the things that actually make me happy, which I would use that money to do. So it's like, don't pay too much for your money.
I have some thoughts on this, but Bloated Punch, why don't you share yours first?
I actually
If
had
you
a
haven't.
different question for you, so you go for
Okay,
it.
so on that topic, this one is it hits home for me because 2 years ago I moved from a law firm to a company because at the law firm I mean I probably took a 40% pay cut from the law firm to the company, but it was worth it because of like I was changing my like work-life balance substantially. And it's just like a frame of reference. It was like consistently like 60 to 80 hour work weeks, and a lot of it like crappy night and weekend work. These people would the law firm life was very demanding. So then we get, fast forward, I wasn't like I was passively investing in crypto until like late or like last summer, and then I started getting way into it. And then with DeFi Kingdoms, I was spending a lot of time, and then it's like all these other GameFi projects, and I got to a point where my wife said, it doesn't really feel that much different than when you were at the law firm. And I still struggle with this, and I'm always asking the same question. It's like, yeah, but like I'm setting ourselves up. I'm setting up our family financially so that like, hey, maybe in 5 years I don't have to work and I can spend time coaching our kids and going to all the events. And so it's like it's an investment we need to make now. And she's like, well, yeah, well, how is that much different than when you were at the law firm? And it's eye opening to think about it. And I think it's nice to say family's more important, friends are more important, relationships are more important. They are. But money is also very important to people, and people need money to do things. And so it's like, I feel like everyone's line is going to be different. My line might be, I'm okay sacrificing for the next 5 years to like really like try to like fast forward my financial like my nest egg, whereas somebody else might be like, it's not worth it to me at all. I have no interest if that's the price. So I don't think there's a one size fits all answer. I think what you should do is, where is your line? Like draw that line in the sand, and then like Baby Punch said, you just don't cross it. Don't pay more, don't pay too much for your money. If it's coming at a steep cost of like sacrificing relationships, moments that you should be spending with your children, everyone's line is different. For somebody that's single and is not married and doesn't have kids, like their line might be way further than mine. Mine might be way further than somebody else that's in the same situation. So find where your line is, draw a line, and then just try not to cross it. And if you do, then you need to dial it back and find ways to more passively invest in crypto.
Awesome.
Sorry.
No, that was good stuff. We're almost at the hour. Dave, I just want to address Dave's question real quick. Do you think the team will incentivize holding Jewel around the unlock to prevent too much sell pressure? Yes. And I think the strategy is very, very clear. Amulet snapshot incoming. We're all going to be holding lock Jewel because we got to get that amulet. That said, apart from that, Sandwich Punch, with your DFK connections, when are we going to see Dreamer, Frisky. When are they coming on the stream to like do a little Q&A?
Dude, I would love that. I would love to have them on. I mean, they're so busy.
This is an
I'll
official
reach
shout
out.
out.
I'll try.
This is a
Are
call
they
out.
busy though?
I think they are.
I'm just kidding. Okay, that was an awesome stream. I learned a lot. Super useful. So thanks everyone for tuning in. Does anyone want to send us? I don't want to cut anyone off. Any last thoughts from either of you before we end?
I don't think we ever said this, but we need to put the whole none of this was intended to be financial advice. Like, no one in here really knows exactly what we're doing. We're just learning lessons as we
We're
go.
just dummies.
Yeah, if you can learn from our mistakes, like that is optimal. Don't feel like you need to make these mistakes yourself to learn the lesson. So learn from our mistakes. None of this, we're not financial advisors, so don't take any of this as financial advice. Just 3 dudes playing around in crypto.
Awesome. And with that, we will end the stream. Thanks everybody, and we'll see you. I'll see you next time.
All right.
See you
See you
guys.
guys. Have a good weekend. Get out.